What's a company secret you can share now that you don't work there? Part 2. I don't think it's a bad secret at all. But back in college, I delivered pizzas for Papa John's. The store manager must have had an undiagnosed case of OCD, or germophobia, or something. Because every night, he would assign someone to do the cleaning duties, mopping floors, double-checking expiration dates / throwing away expired stuff, etc. And every night, he would absolutely lose his temper and berate whoever was doing the cleaning. They were going too fast, they weren't cleaning everything, whatever. After that, he'd always take over the cleaning himself. He was amazingly picky about the cleanliness and food quality. Expiration date is 3 days from now? F that, I'll order more. Throw that shit away, we're not serving it. He would also go out of pocket to buy special cleaning products, because that worthless bullshit that corporate wants us to use doesn't get the job done. He also went out of pocket to hire some kind of specialist to clean out the fountain drink dispenser, ice machine and all that stuff. The machine needs to always be as close to brand new as possible. One standout moment for me was when he reduced a cashier to tears by hollering, "Would you eat off this floor? No? Then it's not clean enough." He wasn't telling her to eat off the floor. He was just making a point. After we'd closed the store, he'd kick all of us out, lock up behind us and stay until something like 2 a.m. cleaning the place. You always knew when he closed, because you could smell the chemical scent still lingering in the air. The end result of this was the store, the food, the equipment and the facilities were always in squeaky clean condition. Customers, somehow, picked up on what a perfectionist the store manager was, and bought from us all the time. Because there's a lot of peace of mind that goes in with knowing your food was cooked by someone willing to throw ingredients away before the expiration date, stay in the store until God knows when cleaning everything, etc. The true irony was how much the boss hated himself, because he didn't think he was doing a good enough job to run a clean restaurant with fresh ingredients. It didn't matter how many compliments he got from customers, or how many service industry veterans said they'd never worked in a place as obsessive about freshness and cleanliness as his Papa John's store. He was convinced his store was still a filthy barn. Eventually, he got promoted to some kind of higher-level corporate position, district manager, that required him to visit other stores and make sure they were all up to spec. The end result of that was, a lot of stores in this area, all improved seemingly overnight. 1. Ford parts from Mexico are way more reliable than Ford parts from Detroit, or at least they were before 2020. I worked in Detroit, and we had some customers who were fussy about us always doing repairs with Michigan parts, but when we had a problem that wouldn't stay fixed, we would always secretly switch to the Mexican parts, which did solve things. 2. I was a prison guard a decade ago, and we installed some facial tracking software in the surveillance cameras. One of the inmates panicked while cleaning the unused solitary confinement cells, which is usually a desirable job. It's easy as F and nobody pays attention to you, and he insisted that he be moved out of that job because there was a ghost. The ranking officers decided to check the new cameras, and the security software claimed it saw a face behind the inmate, at the same time as he was visibly startled in the camera footage. We're all aware there are mundane reasons why a new facial recognition system would think it saw a ghost, but since the inmate and the security software both thought there was a ghost, it was decided that the inmate should be immediately transferred, at no penalty. I still work here, but everyone please, get a copy of your medical records from every place you've been to. Keep a hard copy in your home. Because I have horror stories from working in medical records since 2007. Right around the same time, a major retailer had its largest warehouse burned down. It fired a huge number of its store managers, under the guise that their stores were experiencing unusually high theft rates of 2 million plus, after its annual shrinkage report. They fired my store manager, and tried to tell me that we had a near $3 million shrinkage. I spent 12 hours, with a full crew of salaried managers, trying to locate the missing items within the store. I'm talking full-blown arcade machines, furniture, etc. We found nothing, outside of a display the counting crew missed. The warehouse was burned down within a week or two of this. They're still filling in some of these store management spots. I used to work at the front desk of an hotel. More often than not, if we tell you we're fully booked, when you try to make a reservation, we actually are. But sometimes it's just bullshit we make up, because we got a bad vibe from you. We get blamed if we accept a booking from a person who then trashed the room, or was just all around annoying/rude to the staff. It's not all hotels I worked at that do this, but some do. Health insurance dude. When you file a claim, it is often denied, because they're counting on you, not escalating it. Once you do, your case goes to a medical management group, which ought to be called the "we don't want to pay" group. Keep escalating, and involve your doctor. Fight for the insurance you paid for. I worked in the seafood industry for many years. Two things immediately come to mind. First, don't ever buy the pre-marinated cuts of fish that are sometimes for sale at the counter. Those are cuts that are about to turn bad, or already have, and the marinade is only there to mask the poor quality and smell. Second, more of just an FYI, but a lot of the fresh lobster meat, you see, is made up at least partly from dead and dying lobsters. Tanks and crates are checked daily, sometimes more frequently during the summer months, and the lobsters that croaked overnight are cooked and shucked for their meat. If you see a lot of straight tails, steer clear. I worked in insurance billing at night, as a side job, while still going to school as a physician. I had the hard job of fighting insurance for things like a 4 ounces bottle of betadine 5% for $300 that your insurance doesn't want to pay for, or life-saving services that keep people alive like transplants, cardiac surgeries, etc. Sometimes, I would be fighting for months on these things, and they would exhaust me and it would get so personal. I looked at their chart, their story, their history and visits. And over the years, I have written off, or just erased, several millions of dollars in medical bills just because I didn't have the heart to let it fall back on people. Tiny 3-day-old babies who needed new hearts, grandma who was only 50, who needed a new kidney, papa who needed a new liver, and new medical treatment for his condition, twin baby girls, who needed surgery, while mom was pregnant, to save them both. A husband who needed brain surgery, his wife was pregnant. A firefighter needing cancer treatment. I just paid it all. Silently at night. All they received was a statement in the mail that things have been covered and medication/services are taken care of, like no balance was owed to the hospital, etc. But it was me. I just wrote it off. We used donations, funding, certain surgeries had special services to could connect into. Everything got paid, it just never fell back on the patient. I never met a single one of them. I just hope it helped. The drawing to win 2 free weeks of Sparkle diaper service is fixed. If the name on the entry is eligible, isn't currently a customer, and hasn't been a customer in the last year, it wins. This is true for a lot of small business drawings as well. When I was a teen, I won a free membership at a gym for a week. Got there, and the manager recognized me, as he knew my older brother. He confided in me that anyone who enters wins a free week, because they are really looking for an opportunity to hit them with in-person high-pressure sales tactics. Comcast/Xfinity sells people's private information, including search histories and basically any traffic you use, through their ISP. I worked there for almost 10 years doing direct sales, and saw a lot of shady stuff. The water test samples we sent to the independent lab were not our well water, they were just bottled water from the local grocery store. WTF. This is crazy illegal. Like federal raid, illegal. You should absolutely be whistleblowing on this kind of thing. Federal whistleblower laws will put your manager in prison and get you a hefty cash reward, FYI. This is bad. My husband is a chemist and he has left a few jobs because of shady shit like this. It will ruin you in your field if this shady crap was ever discovered. Worked at an ISP. We lied to customers daily about speeds and delivery times. We sold internet and stations we knew were full, and DSL is just garbage. Don't had a single customer in 7 years who actually got the speed we promised. The burned out rates in support was 3 months before people quit. If you tried to actually help customers, you got chewed out and was a problem. Worked in IT in the HQ of a MLM. To the public, no, it's not a pyramid scheme. Never. Behind the curtain. Everyone knows it's shady AF, people are counting the days. You work too long for a MLM, you're pretty much stuck with MLM jobs, after you reached certain level. All of the C-suite execs, that weren't there at the start, came from other MLM gigs, and left to other MLM gigs. And they only have that C-suite gig, because they have huge followers. Not one of the C-suite people had a clue what they should have been doing. I worked at doTERRA for 2 years, in the call center. Whenever someone called in and asked, how can I maximize my earnings? It took all the restraint in me, not to say, close your account and get a job. So many people get told lies by the 1% of success stories, and wind up losing thousands. Dating websites don't want you to find love. They're designed to squeeze as much money out of you as possible before you cancel, and partly rely on people forgetting to cancel a subscription, and put deliberate barriers in the cancellation process. I was using Match.com back in the day. When I canceled my subscription, they kept my profile up, like I was still a member. So, if someone emailed me I could not respond, as I was not a member. Then they would contact you, to get you to subscribe, so that you could respond. I quit, cause I was in a relationship. It became nearly impossible for me to keep my profile from showing when I was no longer a member. Finally I deleted everything from my profile, so there were no pictures, no meaningful content, so when they put it up anyway, nobody would be duped and respond to it. Those orgs are scummy. It would not surprise me if many of the profiles were just made up by the company, and not people who really exist, but can't prove that one. I'll say it. A place similar in name to Past Face Urgent Care, at least in the region I worked at, banned their front desk from informing customers that they have a credit balance to use toward their services, and still required us to charge customers the full price on top of what we already owed them. Some accounts had like $500 of copay that should have been refunded, but weren't. I was actually reprimanded for applying the credit balance, because despite finance agreeing my method was correct, the regional manager said it was not a good look for the company and hindered her profits. I didn't tell anyone this before, and I didn't do it myself, but if you ever wanted to steal from a store, Big Lots is super easy. It's half a regular store and half overstock, in the near expiration date time frame, from other stores. You can also, depending on the manager there, get incredible deals on shit they want gone that haven't been selling well. This includes some furniture, like leftover pieces, from sets like a set of 1 couch and 2 chairs, but someone returned a couch, so there is an odd number. You can ask a manager if they have anything they're trying to get rid of, then you can easily get a 30% to 50% discount, just for the trouble of taking it off their hands. If they ask for a store rewards card, just give the 867-5309 number. There is zero benefit from the card to you, it's just to track your purchases for ads. Also, the store I worked at had 2 big sales each year, around Independence Day and Thanksgiving, wherever was 20% off. It is very encouraged to buy paper products like paper towels, toilet paper, paper plates, napkins, and tissues in near bulk, then you can store it at home. Not me, but a friend. A lot of chain restaurants will buy a microwave pudding, edit, causing a few Americans issues. Pudding, in the UK usually refers to dessert and sauce from the supermarket, for about £3, and sell in their restaurant for about £15. Curbside recycling usually goes straight to the landfill. This was a big deal in my city a while back. The city's recycling contract expired, and they didn't bother renewing it. Edit, they also didn't tell anyone. But the city was still issuing fines for putting non-recyclables in the bins, even though everything was still going to the same dump. Edit, yeah, I'm from Cleveland, and the new mayor got a new recycling contract. At a tech company, named after a fruit, we're trained on day one to respect and protect customers' data. It's a huge no-no to go through someone's phone. I've seen people be fired on the spot for admitting that they looked through a customer's phone when they took it in the back. Lamau, that's hilarious. When I worked at a place named after an office appliance, we'd go through things after, say, a data transfer or whatnot, to make sure stuff made it over. But you best be sure, there were times people dug a bit too deep on people's systems. Had to report at least one to the police due to CP. I used to work in college admissions. Rich donors, athletes, and other VIPs have lower admission criteria. They still have minimums, but they're super easy to reach, even for a selective university. In the case of the university I worked for, BYU, children of General Church authorities also got this. Worked at a American Toyota dealership in the body shop for 12 years. We would throw away literally everything, regardless of the environmental impact. Car paint, which is nasty shit by the way, went straight to the dumpster. Radiator fluid? Down the drain. I even saw someone put oil down the drain a couple times, even though we had barrels for it up in the service department. The only thing we saved was old car parts, which the boss then sold to scrapyards, and pocketed the money. The painter didn't ever wear a mask either. He is around 60 and still kicking, despite 30 years of painting without a mask somehow. I worked at General Motors in the paint department for a while, before moving to final repair. I found that guys that wanted to commit but wanted to take care of their family's future, would volunteer to work in the clear coat booth. They would be seen in there, with no mask on. The stuff would crystallize on their lungs. No way to save you after that. Usually took a year. I used to work as a consultant, and I would get billed out to multiple clients at once. You answered the phone, and they ask if you're done with the project, and you say nope, should be tomorrow. Boom, 15 minutes of billing. You write a quick email to someone else saying, hey, quick question, do you want this in red or blue? Boom, 15 minutes of billing. You write a post-it note on a file saying, don't forget to print this document. Boom, 15 minutes. You print out said document. Boom, 15 minutes. You just billed out an hour's worth of work, and you worked less than 5 minutes. Pharmaceutical manufacturing facility. The guy in QA is boning 2 or 3 of the manufacturing techs, usually in the sterile rooms, where you have to double badge to get in. He's married, the women he's boning are married, and his son also works in the facility. I was dismissed for insubordination, because I was asked to do some shit that was unethical/illegal, and refused to do it. Best Buy sells most larger appliance at cost or loss. Many of these are MSRP controlled too. Things like TVs, washer/dryer, laptops, phones, etc. do not make them any money. But the accessories to go with them make all the money. Cables, cases, mounts, bags, install, and warranty is where they make their money. We were trained to push the highest end monster cables and shit. Management didn't care if I sold 1 million TVs. They cared how many cables and mounts I sold. If you sold a TV and didn't attach accessories, you get additional training. One of the biggest banks in the US would routinely forge client signatures when they leave, without double checking all the pages. Since originals are held at the branch, and copies are faxed over, there's many ways for them to lift a signature from another source, and place it where it's needed. Edit, it wasn't Wells Fargo. School administrations, in general, don't give a shit about the education or well-being of the students. But they care very much about appearing as if they do. Source, taught in several different schools and districts. I worked for one of the biggest river cruise companies in Europe, if not the biggest. Apparently, when you're paying for a cruise online, you can give a tip automatically to the staff. I didn't even know about it, till the guests told me, while I was working there. Never seen a cent of that money. Please tip in cash only directly to the person you want to tip, otherwise they will probably never get that money. Not to mention the owner of the company is billionaire, of effing course he is. Edit, something I feel is important to mention, and not many people are aware. We get 2 days off per month, and that's only if you have enough crew on board, and that's rarely the case. Couple years back, you didn't have any days off, you have a 20-day vacation within your 9-month contract. And to go home for the vacation, you have to pay for the ticket, and organize everything yourself. You also have to organize everything when our contract starts and ends, so if you get lost or something happens, it's your fault. And never theirs. Crew does not eat the same food as guests. Most of the food we get is just frozen stuff, basically a rotation of pasta, potatoes and rice, with some additions, so it's not exactly the same every day, but never as good as the guests get. You're frowned upon, if you even want to taste it, since are considered basically a peon compared to guests. At a local deli/grocery store I worked at, everyone raved about how good their mac and cheese is, and it always sold really quick. When I worked in the deli, it's even labeled on the menu as store's famous mac and cheese. It's literally just Stouffer's, we didn't even add anything to it. They say they test the product per state regulations, but in actuality they use fabricated ones to pass off the low-grade potentially fungus-ridden cannabis. And since there are only 3 inspectors in the state, and this particular business owner has family in the political realm currently, she gets away with it. I worked for Ashley Furniture. Most of the furniture you have delivered has been torn or broken, and then fixed by techs in the warehouse. I saw countless couches get broken during the offloading process, and so many scratches to dressers and nightstands. The techs patch them up and pass them to the customer as new. Honestly, 85% of the products that went out for delivery were repairs. If you want to make sure you're getting something really brand new from the manufacturer, go to the warehouse to pick up your furniture. They will have to hand it directly to you, without opening prior, and do yourself a favor and open it there, to inspect it. You can ask them to open it, it's not rude, it's actually part of their responsibilities. The delivery fee is over $200, so you'll be saving yourself money plus the time it would take for them to pick something up that you later found was damaged. Also, those really big bed posts that look like carved tree trunks are actually 4x4s with some kind of plaster molded around to look handcrafted. They are cheap. I dropped one once, and it shattered into a million pieces. I worked in TV for years, local, national, cable. Surprisingly, there weren't many secrets. Some I can think of. In the 90s, a majority of murders in big cities weren't ever reported. This was when we'd have access to the Reuters feed, before everyone else had high-speed internet access. These days, local news in certain cities, like Chicago, actually report a weekend tally of murders, which is nuts. When we knew a show was going to get low ratings, like during a holiday weekend, we'd sometimes rename it in what we reported to Nielsen, so it wouldn't bring down the overall average rating of a particular show. Likewise, if a low-rated show was going to be following what we knew would be a highly rated show, we'd combine both shows in our listings into one long block of the higher-rated show. This was so, if you DVR recorded one, you'd get both shows. We often heard of celebrities going into hospice and or dying from before the official word got out through leaks, but couldn't report them until confirmed. This applies to all news outlets, really. There really isn't a vast left-wing media conspiracy to portray bias in news, but there definitely is bias. Most of this comes from the fact that news outlets are mainly in urban centers, where the people working there live. Local stations and cable networks will often speed up their content to fit more commercials in. Some of this happens at the studio level, before sending the materials out. Sometimes it happens at the station level, with the studio more or less saying, "Just don't tell us you're doing it." They're owned by a faith organization, but go to considerable lengths to not make that obvious. They also very publicly claim to give a significant portion of their profits to charity. Customers buy their products, feeling good that money is going to good causes. In reality, they give money to a charity which they set up, which then gives money to another charity which they set up, which then gives money back to their own churches. All perfectly legal. Edit, I won't name it specifically, as people who work there could probably identify me, based on other posts I've made. But it's a UK-based company. Sounds like it could easily be one of a number of organizations.